During Christmas dinner at my daughter's house, I started feeling sick, so I went to get some water. What I saw in the kitchen made me call 911. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. If I stumble today, winter will take my granddaughter, and a woman who calls cruelty. Discipline will finish what the cold starts. The evening news. Murmurs about heating costs and a nor'easter rolling through by Christmas when my landline rings sharp enough to make my hand twitch. I fumble for my glasses and squint at the caller ID. It's Jennifer. My daughter doesn't call this late on a weeknight unless something went wrong, something big. Mom, she says. Her voice cracks the way it did when she was 15 and crashed my sedan into a mailbox. I need your help urgently. The coffee on the end table went cold hours ago. The house is quiet in that steady way old houses breathe. The furnace exhaling at 68 to spare the bill. The clock on the mantel ticking like a second heart. I sit up in my leather chair and feel the familiar protest in my knees. What happened? I ask. Silence. In it, I hear the quick scrape of a kitchen chair and the staccato pacing of a woman measuring panic against pride. I lost money, she finally says. A lot of money. How much is a lot, Jennifer? 50, she whispers, as if the number itself could wake the children in the next room. 50,000. My fingers tighten around the receiver. 50,000 isn't a number. It's a season of life. It's someone's college or someone's surgery or 10 winters of heat. How? I say. And don't tell me investing unless you want the truth back. She swallows. Crypto, digital assets. It looked safe, 30% in 6 months. I used our emergency fund, the kids' college accounts. I took a home equity loan for the rest. You put the house on the table, I say. My mouth tastes like old pennies. How much on the house? 25. The lender wants payment by mid-January or they start, you know. Her breath hitches. Mom, they can take the house. I look past the glowing TV to the picture window. Across the street, Mr. Thompson's porch is strung with those big old bulbs that throw fat halos on the snow. Good homes make their own weather. I've believed that my whole life. Have you talked to a lawyer? I ask. Credit counselor? Anybody besides whoever took your money? I can't afford a lawyer. Her voice sharpens. I can barely afford groceries. There's a long moment where all I see is Sophie's serious little smile, and Ethan's goofy front teeth, and Michael's tired face at the sink. I make myself breathe through it. There has to be something we can do, I say. I've got savings. Not a fortune, but... She cuts in, tone shifting, air cooling. Mom, this isn't a few $100. This is serious adult money. Life-changing. The words sting. I am an adult, I say evenly. And I worked 40 years to have a little I can call mine. I know. She exhales like someone running numbers on a napkin. I know you're trying, but there's one way you could fix it. Like really fix it. I stand, the phone pressed to my ear so hard I can hear my pulse. Say it straight. The house, she says. Your house is worth what, 300 plus in this market? Maybe more. You're there alone, Mom. It's too much. Maintenance, heat, repairs. You could sell, buy a condo, someplace with meals and activities and still have a pile left over. You'd be happier, honestly. And with what's left, you could pay for your mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was... Jennifer. I'm just saying it's practical. That patient tone she uses when she wants me to know she thinks I'm slow shows up like a bruise. Honestly, you're rattling around 4 bedrooms at your age. Wouldn't you rather be somewhere easier? I think of my late husband's rose bed asleep under burlap out back, the ribbed quilt draped across the sofa she chose that spring. We still argued about green versus blue. No, I say. I wouldn't. You're being sentimental. I'm being faithful. She goes quiet. When she speaks again, the gentle is back. Varnish over pine. Think about Sophie and Ethan. Think about Michael. Mom, we could lose everything. Then you should have protected everything, I say. And I hate the way my voice shakes. You should have guarded your home before risking it on a get-rich scheme someone cooked up in a Discord you can't even find now. Her silence curdles. Okay, she says at last. If you won't help, really help, then I don't know what we're supposed to do. I press a hand against the window's cold pane and leave the print there, a fossil of heat. I'll think, I say. Tonight's not the night for decisions. She hangs up without goodbye. For a while I just stand there, the dial tone buzzing like a fly trapped in a jar. Then I hang up and cross to the kitchen. The mail sits in a tidy stack by the fruit bowl I keep stocked more out of habit than appetite. That's where old women lose their houses, I think. Not in a crash, but in a drift. The top envelope is a gas bill with a red stripe. Past due. I lay it flat, smooth the crease, and read the number out loud. It isn't catastrophic, not compared to 50,000. It is the kind of number that can freeze a house if you pretend not to see it. I pay what I can online and adjust the thermostat to 66. The blower kicks on, and the vents breathe out their thin, warm air. Somewhere in the house, wood settles. My neighbor, Carol Peterson, calls 10 minutes later as if she can smell trouble from 3 doors down. She's been my friend since back when I wore a badge with Rocky Mountain Industries stamped above my name, and we timed our lunches so we could talk about baseball and roof leaks in the same breath. You sound rough, she says. What's going on? Jennifer called, I say. And somehow those 2 words contain the rest. Ah. She makes a noise that is not quite a sigh. How bad? 50, home equity. Wants me to liquidate. Sell your place. Carol's voice stiffens. Absolutely not. She says it's practical. She says I'm rattling around. And she says it knowing what that house holds. Carol doesn't have to list it. The scrape on the baseboard where Ethan's toy tractor ate paint last fall. The way sunlight lands in the front room at 9:32 a.m. and makes the dust look like confetti. My husband's spice jars labeled in his neat block letters. I told her no, I say. The word steadies something inside me by saying it again. I told her I'd think, but no. Good. Sleep on it. Call me in the morning. And Barbara, lock your doors. People do desperate things when money's on. Fire. Jennifer's not. The protest dies in my throat because neither of us needs me to finish. It with that kind of person. People are a dozen kinds of person, depending on the corner you press them into. We hang up. I switch off the news. The house hums. I take my husband's recipe card for apple pie down from the clip by the pantry and read his notes out loud just to hear his handwriting in the room. It calms my hands. I do not sleep well. By 10 a.m., I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee, and the armchair has a trench where I have dug and dug. The bank statements lie open on the coffee table like honest witnesses. $15,603 in savings. My pension direct deposit of $2,800 due at the end of the month. It's not nothing. It's also not 50. I call Jennifer. Mom, she says. She sounds distracted, like she's eating or scrolling or both. I've been thinking, I begin. I can't give you 50, but I can give you 15 right now. It would buy time. Maybe you can work out a plan with your creditors. She laughs. There's no humor in it. Mom, that's not even close. These aren't visa guys. These are serious people. I can co-sign a loan. My credit's good. Stop. She says it sharp now. Just stop with small-time thinking. I need real money. Substantial money. 15,000 is substantial to me. That's the problem. She says, your idea of substantial isn't reality. It's pathetic. The word drops through my chest like a wrench. I close my eyes. I think of 18-hour days on the assembly floor when the plant was short, of tuna sandwiches and coffee, in a thermos that still smells like the first winter it held heat, of the day I carried my husband down the front steps, because he wanted to see the first snow from the porch, and his legs wouldn't listen. Anymore. Pathetic is not the name for any of it. Don't call my life pathetic, I say. It comes out quiet. That's the only version of the sentence that fits in my mouth. If you won't sell, then why even call? She says. Don't pretend you're helping if you're not willing to do what it takes. The line goes dead so suddenly. My ear rings. For 4 days, the house and I orbit one another. I touch everything that matters. The quilt on the back of the sofa, the pencil marks on the doorway that measure grandchildren in inches and summers, the coffee cup with a hairline crack I can find with my thumb without looking. On day 3, I find a shut-off notice for the internet service because I forgot to pay it. On day 4, the pharmacy tells me my copay went up again. None of it will kill me. All of it, added together, can erode a woman who lives alone into a shape she doesn't recognize. Carol knocks on my back door with 2 steaming cups. She doesn't bother with hello. She asked again, didn't she? She called, I say. She called my savings pathetic. Carol whistles through her teeth. My sister-in-law used to do that. Ratchet the ask. Start small, end with your house deed on the table. We told her no. She didn't speak to us for 2 years. Best 2 years our family ever had. She's my daughter. She's a 42-year-old who wants to be rescued without learning to swim. People drown, I say. People also take down rescuers who forget they're wearing boots. She leans in. I am not telling you to stop loving her. I am telling you to stop helping her hurt you. That night, I open the old metal lockbox in the hall closet. Inside are the things that outlast storms. The deed, the small life insurance policy, the card from my attorney who did wills for half the old-timers on our street. I add a note on top in my tidy block letters. If anything happens to me, the kids, Sophie and Ethan, are to be protected first. Then I write the phone number for the county sheriff non-emergency line, and below it, 911 in larger digits, as if I could forget the number I taught my grandson last summer when we played What to Do If Grandma Falls. On the 5th day, Jennifer calls again. The caller ID might as well be a match pressed to paper. Mom, she says, soft as a lullaby. I'm sorry. I say nothing. Let an apology fly in circles until it either lands on something real or flutters itself to death. I was stressed, she continues. I said things I didn't mean. Michael wants to cook for Christmas. The kids have been asking about you non-stop. They made presents. Sophie made you a mug. Come to dinner. No money talk. Just family. It's the word grandma in Sophie's mouth that undoes me, not her apology. Love is leverage and a lifeline, both at once. I don't want to fight at your table, I say. I don't want to be cornered or scolded in front of the children. Of course not, she says quickly. No pressure. Just dinner. 4 o'clock, please. I'll think, I say. After we hang up, I pull my red sweater, the one my husband knitted the last Christmas he could manage 2 needles, off its hanger and lay it across the bed. Then I pick up the phone and call Carol. Countermeasures, she asks. Like we're back on the factory floor planning a shutdown. I go because of the kids, I say. But I go smart. You call me at 4:45. If I don't pick up or if I answer and say, I forgot to salt the walk, you call 911 and give them the address. Make it a different phrase, she says. You salt your walk every time it flurries. Choose a sentence you'd never say. I think. How about, I left the red sweater in the freezer. She laughs despite herself. Perfect. I'll be waiting with my finger over the 9. Bring the sheriff's non-emergency line too, I say, just in case. Barbara, Carol says, voice warming. You can always not go. I could, I say. But love doesn't cancel itself just because it learns a lesson. It adjusts its seatbelt and keeps going. She's quiet. Okay, I'll be the seatbelt. I spend the next day doing small, unnecessary things that feel like sharpening knives. Even though I'm only cutting string, I shine my shoes. I wrap Sophie's science kit and Ethan's model airplane in paper that matches the candy cane ribbon. I write their names with a felt tip that bleeds slightly and looks like joy. I bake my husband's apple pie using his card, hearing his voice at every step. Cut the butter cold. Don't overwork the dough. Breathe. And when the crust turns golden, I want to cry from the smell alone. That night I practice saying, "No money talk tonight," in the mirror. I practice, "I love you." And, "We'll talk after Christmas." And, "I won't discuss selling my house." In the glass, an old woman I recognize nods back at me, solemn and a little wry. She looks like someone you could trust with your kids at a bus stop or your secrets on a porch swing. She also looks tired. I go to bed early and sleep hard, as if the body knows it is about to make a choice with consequences. Morning comes clear and bright. The porch rail is rimed with frost. The air has a bite. I set the thermostat up for an hour to take the edge off while I gather the gifts, then click it back to 60. It's ridiculous to give yourself pneumonia out of principle. I write the sheriff's number on a sticky note and tuck it behind my driver's license. I charge my phone to 100% and turn the ringer up. I place the apple pie in the back seat, wrap a towel around it the way my husband used to cradle hot dishes like newborns on holidays. Before I leave, I stand in the doorway between kitchen and hall, the spot where every good thing has passed, from first steps to last words, and I say out loud, "I will not sell this house," because walls should know where they stand, because I need to hear it in the air I'm leaving behind. On my way out, I see it. Another envelope slid halfway under the mat. It's from the mortgage company, cheery and faintly predatory. "Lower your payment," across the top. I put it on the table unopened and lay my palm on it, like a benediction and a refusal. Then I lock the door. I touch each pocket. Keys, wallet, phone. Carol's stupid code phrase sitting on my tongue like a lifesaver hard candy. I can crunch if I must. I take one last look at the house that has held my life like a barn holds light in winter. As long as I'm breathing, I say to no one, "This place is not for sale." The wind bites my ears. The sky looks carved from tin. Somewhere far off, a plow scrapes pavement. I get in the car, start the engine, and point the hood toward Brookside. At the first stop sign, my phone pings. A text from Carol with a thumbs up and the words, 4:45. Red sweater freezer. No heroics, Barbara. Seatbelt, I say. And I mean her and me, and the way love can be both restraint and salvation when roads get slick. I drive, gifts rattling gently in the back seat, pie radiating memory in the cabin, a plan-riding shotgun. Whatever waits at my daughter's table, I am not going empty-handed, and I am not going undefended. If I am careless tonight, winter won't need the wind. It will use what's already simmering on my daughter's stove. The late afternoon sky is the color of unpolished pewter when I pull up to their place in Brookside. Lights braid the eaves and blink without pattern. The front walk is clear, a little too clear. Salt spread right up to the sill, like someone wanted to be sure the path in was easy and fast. I balance the apple pie, the two gifts, the old red sweater breathing heat through my coat, and knock. The door swings open, and Ethan hits me at the knees, hard enough to make my balance consider a new career. "Grandma!" he yells. Damp mittens smell and toothpaste and little boy all at once. Sophie hovers behind him, something homemade cupped in both hands, face set in that careful way of hers when she wants something to go right more than she wants to show she wants it. Michael appears with a dish towel over one shoulder, a smile too bright for a Thursday. "You made it. Come in quick, it's cold." Jennifer lingers in the hallway, hands in her pockets, a measured grin on her mouth, like an apology practicing for the notes it wants to hit. She takes the pie from me. "Smells like old times, Mom." The words lay themselves out politely. I can hear the traffic running under them. "Old times took work," I say, because I can't stop my hands from setting the gifts under the tree and straightening one ornament that faces the wall. "They earned the smell." She doesn't answer that. She's wearing the corduroy jacket she hauls out when she wants to look solid. It makes her seem like she belongs to a magazine about people who own barn tables and beliefs. Her eyes flick to the counter where two glasses crouch beside a bottle of whiskey. and a pot of mulled cider throwing off a clove-heavy steam. "Warm up?" she asks. "Either or. I've never drunk much in this house. Not out of virtue. Out of wanting all my senses when the children are here. Maybe later," I say. "Let me wash up." "Bathroom's down the hall," she says. "Like we've never met this hallway." "Kitchen sink is fine," I say, and move past her, because kitchens tell the truth about a family faster than any mantelpiece. The kitchen is the same as last year and not the same. Ceramic rooster timer, the same chipped mixing bowl, the same magnet that says coffee because childhood doesn't last forever. Not a new padlock fixed on the basement door like a tooth gone gold. Not the back door deadbolt thrown, chain-latched. Not the knife block missing the paring knife I bought them when they moved in. Michael's handwriting is on a list stuck to the fridge. Nutmeg, tape, oranges, paper towels. The last line is torn through by the magnet shaped like a lemon. The rip looks like teeth marks. I run the water and scrub like a surgeon, counting out 20. The water is colder than it should be. The hot takes its time, like an excuse. On the counter, the whiskey bottle is new, open, the seal in the sink, the cut a little jagged. Beside the bottle is a small glass jar. I don't recognize it. The label peeled off clean. A faint medicinal scent rides the clove and orange. I tilt the jar. A breath of something bitter climbs out and sits on my tongue, without permission. It could be anything. It could be nothing. That's the problem with the world. You don't know which until the consequences pick a seat. Michael touches my elbow. "You okay?" "Fine," I say. "Where can I put the pie?" "The cooling rack." He gestures to a trivet already waiting, as if the counter has been rehearsing. "Jennifer, would you fix your mum something?" She looks frozen. "I'm fine with water," I say. "Too quick." I add a stripe of smile to the top to sand the edge off. "Plenty of clove in the air already." Michael's eyes pause on mine. He is tired in a way that uses good makeup and still cannot hide. Water it is. Ethan tugs at my sweater. "Open mine first," he says, and I love that he assumes the order of the world can change if he announces it confidently enough. "After dinner," Michael says. We eat, we sing one song, then presents. "House rules." "We never sing," Jennifer says with a snort, like she's auditioning for levity and knows the part is already taken. She pours cider, not whiskey, and slides the mug toward me. Michael's recipe. Just apples and spices. The steam curls up into my face. Comforting, complicated. I'm thirsty. I take a careful sip. Cinnamon and clove and something else I can't name. Nutmeg, maybe. Or the memory of nutmeg. It's a little too sweet. I set the mug down and move to the sink for that water I said I wanted. When I open the cabinet for a glass, I spot on the shelf behind the stack a tiny plastic dropper bottle, the kind you get with eye medicine or cheap essential oils. No label. The cap cinched down too tight. The plastic around the threads a little whitened, like it's been turned hard by a frustrated hand. Michael follows my gaze. He's swift, practiced. The bottle disappears into his apron pocket with a movement that would make a card sharp proud. "Food's ready," he says too loudly, as if volume could spackle over physics. We sit. The children chatter with the reporting precision of small witnesses. Sophie's science kit came with goggles. Ethan's model airplane is huge like a bus, like a sky bus. I ask questions. I listen. I catalogue Jennifer tops off my cider without asking. Steady as a refuel. I put my hand over the mug and let the refill pool in my palm instead of the drink. I smile when the wet is cold. Pretend it's condensation. The pot roast is the kind a person can only make if they have slowed down long enough to respect a low flame. Carrots go sweet when they've told their stories to the pot for a few hours. I eat. I keep my fork moving. My phone in my pocket hums once, then quiets. The calendar I set to remind me that 4:45 will roll around whether anyone's ready or not. "Mom," Jennifer says during the second pass of gravy. I wanted to say again, I was out of line. She looks good in apology the way certain women look good in bronze. Still hard under the warm light. I said things I shouldn't. We can make a plan. We can... No money talk tonight, I say softly without heat. It lands like the first drop of rain on a parched deck. Right, she says, smiling, palms up. Right. We try the song anyway, and it's worse than I expect, which means it's perfect. Ethan yells every third word. Sophie harmonizes with herself. My voice cracks like a door. I feel my husband standing in the doorway of my memory, grinning at how off we are. And for one long, ordinary minute, I allow myself to believe in a version of this house that is only casserole and crayons and bills you pay on time. Then the room tilts a degree, barely enough to make the overhead light choose one corner of the table to love more than the others. It's nothing. It's age and a day too long for a woman who wakes up early. I take a breath and find only 9/10 of one, where there should be a full unit. The cinnamon ghost sits heavier on the back of my tongue. I slide my chair back. Bathroom, I say. Wash my hands again. Gravy got away from me. My phone hums again in my pocket. 444 on the lock screen when I glance. A neat, symmetrical number I decide to be grateful for. In the kitchen, the jar with the peeled label is gone. The dropper bottle is gone from Michael's apron. Beside the sink, a dish towel is balled instead of folded. Beneath that towel, not fully hidden, is the paring knife with the nick on its handle where I dropped it last summer. Its blade is dusted with a scent that doesn't belong in a kitchen. Not bleach, not lemon. Something like hospital corridors and a waiting room at 3 a.m. I wet the towel and wipe my palms slowly. Counting keeps a woman honest. 1, 2, 3. Carol's call comes on the 4th count. Her name fills my screen like a promise I have already chosen. I answer and keep my voice low. Hey there, she says. How's the roast? I left the red sweater in the freezer, I say, careful as threading a needle. The old words sound absurd in my mouth. Absurd is useful. It means truth is working. Carol does not reply for one single heartbeat. Then, got it. The line shakes with the soft click that means a woman's phone has moved from one call to another. She's dialing in the background. My friend is the kind of person who understood the day we set the plan, that fear is a muscle you warm up, not a siren you save for the last minute. I hang up before she comes back. If I keep her on the line, I'll talk to the feeling in my throat instead of the facts in the room. I slide my phone into my pocket and open the cabinet beneath the sink. Cleaning supplies, a roll of trash bags, a little mountain of plastic shopping sacks folded into triangles the way my husband did. Behind those, wedged against the backboard, are 2 more of the dropper bottles, their caps on crooked as if they were closed by a hand that had moved in a rush. One is half full of something the color of watered-down tea. Footsteps. I straighten, close the cabinet with my knee, turn the faucet on to mask the small clack. Jennifer leans on the doorframe. All nonchalance, woman of the house. You good? Old women wash their hands a lot, I say, and dry them on the towel that has been doing other work. She grins. You're not old, Mom. The word lands with a chime meant as a pat on the head. Pie in the oven smells incredible. It does, I say. Timer set? Yep. She taps the rooster timer with 2 fingers like it's a pet. 5 more minutes. The house has a sound now I cannot ignore. The quiet of breath held. Even the kids are softer at the table, as if a teacher has walked in and given them a look, or as if they have felt what children feel better than any instrument. Pressure. Let me drop this in the trash, I say, lifting the bald towel. The lid to the can under the sink sticks a little, the way it does when the bag is almost full. When it gives, it does so with an abruptness that shows me everything inside at once. Onion skins, a tomato end, a label I recognize. The whiskey safety strip, its teeth marks ragged, and a folded page torn from a spiral notebook, half smoothed. A list that is not a grocery list. The first 2 lines are numbers. The third is a name I don't know. The 4th line reads, Mom's place, sale. The question mark is thin. It has been written with a hand that wanted to be careful and failed. I let the lid fall. The clatter is louder than it should be. In the dining room, Sophie looks up. "Present time?" Ethan asks, sensing an opening. Michael stands, wipes his hands, and smiles at me with a softness so carefully arranged it might as well have been ironed. "Presents." He agrees. His eyes slide to my mug. "You didn't drink." "Too sweet," I say. "It's true, and it's not the truth," which is the safest proportion you can mix when the room smells like cloves and trouble. My phone hums once more in my pocket. Not a call, a text now. A green bubble from Carol. 3 words. Help's rolling in. The dining room feels smaller all at once, as if the walls have remembered how to take a step inward. I pick up the pie cutter, the one with the scalloped edge, and carry it like a preacher carries a bookmark. "Let's do Sophie's first," I say. "Voice easy, footwork light. The way you walk on black ice." Sophie hands me a box wrapped in paper that has clearly been folded and refolded 3 times to find the right corners. I make a big business out of peeling the tape without tearing the snowmen. Inside is a lopsided mug with blue glaze and a tiny thumbprint in the handle. It says Grandma in letters that lean into each other for warmth. My throat is a new kind of tight. "It's perfect," I say. "It smells like clay and courage." She blinks at me. "You're silly," she says, "but I can see it land. A person can hang on all winter to a sentence like that." Ethan's gift is a drawing. It is me and my red sweater standing next to a house as big as a ship. Smoke makes squares out of the chimney 'cause he hasn't figured out spirals yet. I am smiling. The house is smiling. The sun is too tired to do more than look like an egg. "Is our house really that big?" I ask, and he nods. "Because in a child's math, the size of a thing is the size of your feeling about it. Something shifts in the hall. A neckline of perfume threads the air, not Michael's usual citrus. Something sharp and floral that doesn't belong. The back door chain is still latched. The basement lock gleams. I lay the pie cutter down. I pick up my phone like I remembered a photo I want to show. I step 1 step, then another toward the kitchen doorway. "Where are you going?" Jennifer's voice is casual in the way a tightrope is casual when a woman tells you not to look down. "Timer," I say. The rooster ticks like a second heart. Under it, the oven's face reflects a distorted room. My shoulders larger, the table longer. Jennifer's posture a little more forward than the version of her standing in the air. You learn to trust the truthful distortions of glass. 4 long knocks sound at the front door. Not fists, knuckles that know their job. 2 beats, a pause, 2 more. The kind of knock that has a badge on the other side of it. Nobody moves. Even the steam off the pot roast decides to wait and see who we decide to be. "Expecting someone?" Michael asks the room. I have been many things, and I have been proud of only some of them. Right now, I am proud of the way my hand does not shake when I put the mug down, of the way my voice keeps its shape when I speak, of the fact that I have loved a house enough to recognize when its walls have tightened for the impact. "Me," I say. "I am," Jennifer's jaw flexes. The flex makes a little tremor in her smile. She glances at Michael. He looks like a person rehearsing a line and forgetting the last word half an inch from his tongue. Another knock. Same cadence. A woman's voice through wood. "County Sheriff's Office." Ethan bolts for the hall because doors and sirens mean fire trucks in the wild math of his life. Jennifer snags the boy by the elbow faster than I like. Not rough, not kind. I stand. The 2 dropper bottles under the sink feel present in the room, without taking up space. The sweetness on my tongue goes cold. "I'll get it," I say, and move before the house learns a new sound. At the door, I can see them through the glass. 2 uniforms, hats, winter faces. Behind them, the world looks normal. Neighbors' lights. A distant car. The ordinary audacity of the season trying to be beautiful. When I open the door, the warmer air of our house rolls out and touches everything like an apology. The taller deputy nods. "Evening, ma'am." We got a call from a concerned party, said there might be a medical issue here. Everyone all right? Yes, I say, and feel the word look around to see if any other words want to join it. And also no. Michael's hand is on the back of Sophie's neck, the way a mother's hand is when she is counting without numbers. Jennifer comes to stand beside me, smiles the smile people smile at uniforms when they are not sure if the next 5 minutes will be an anecdote or a record. We're fine, she says. Misunderstanding. I take a breath that goes all the way down. Officer, I say, eyes on hers. Not on my daughter. Not on the oven where my husband's pie is warming. Not on the door with its new lock to. Somewhere a house should have nothing to hide. Would like to report a concern about something I may have been given without my consent. Tonight, with children present, I am steady at this moment. 10 minutes ago, I was not. The deputy's gaze flicks over my shoulder, makes a note of faces, of a table set, of a room arranged for tenderness and something else. She does not move her hand toward her radio with theatrics. She shifts her weight, a half-inch pivot from friendly check-in to work. And that is its own kind of siren. Okay, she says. We're going to step in then. Let's have a chat in the kitchen. Behind me I hear Sophie whisper, "It is not a question about whether I am okay. It is the question kids ask when they want to know what story they will be living for the next hour." The one where the grown-ups do their jobs, I say very softly, not turning. That one. The deputy glances at my hands. I show her my palms. Clean, older than I like, empty. In the kitchen, the rooster timer hits 0 and rings a bright, foolish bell, as if to announce cake at a picnic. I turn the oven off with a twist that might as well be a prayer. The deputies step fully inside. The door closes against the cold, and the heat in the house changes. Less like a trap, more like a space where truth can condense if you keep the windows from fogging. I breathe. The room holds. Love sits next to fear, pretending to be cousins. Somewhere under the sink, behind plastic triangles folded with care, the small bottles wait for someone with gloves and a camera. My tongue still tastes like spice and a promise I didn't make. Out front, tires whisper on the street, ordinary as breath. The children stand like saplings learning wind. "Ma'am," the deputy says, pen ready, voice even. "Start at the beginning." "I will," I say. "But before we begin, there's something you should know." I look at the table, at the lopsided mug that says my name, at a drawing of a smiling house big enough to be a ship, and then at my daughter, who looks like a woman backlogged with sentences she'd rather not hear. "I came here to be a grandmother," I say, "and it's not the legal beginning, but it is the right one. And I am leaving here the same, whether we slice pie first or not." Beyond the window, the first inkling of flurries begins. Fine, incidental. The sort of snow you could mistake for dust until it decides to commit. Inside, 4 hearts beat louder than the timer ever did. The red sweater holds my heat the way a small animal holds a hill until help tops it. Then I tell the deputy what I know, and what I don't, and what I won't let happen to the kids, and the room begins to move in the direction of morning. If I forget who I'm here for, the house will decide for me, and houses side with whoever can reach the locks. "Start at the beginning," the deputy says, pen ready, the other one angling toward the kitchen like she's seen 1,000 rooms that looked safe until they weren't. I do, because order helps. I drank 1 sip of cider and felt wrong, bitter on the tongue, a tilt in the room. There's a jar with the label peeled off. Was by the sink. A couple of dropper bottles under the cabinet. A new lock on the basement door. The trash has the whiskey seal and a list with Mom's place. Sale, written on it. I take a breath that tastes like cinnamon and stubborn, and I don't want to guess motives. I only want to keep the kids from getting pulled into something they didn't choose. The taller deputy nods without letting her face become sympathy. "Anyone else here?" "Smelled perfume. Not Michael's," Could be nothing. I don't say what else I think, because a woman can drown an hour with maybes. Jennifer laughs a little. Too bright. Perfume. Come on, Mom. This is... Ma'am, the deputy says to her mildly. We're going to talk to everyone, separately. Eichel's hand has not left Sophie's neck. He looks like someone who has broken 3 eggs into a bowl and realized the 4th was rotten and can't decide whether to try to fish it out or throw the whole thing away. The kids can go upstairs and read. Let's keep them where I can see them, the second deputy says gentler, and she crouches, so she's eye level with my grandchildren. I'm Officer Martinez. You two okay? Ethan nods vigorously. Sophie studies her badge like she's memorizing the number. Medical coming, the radio on the deputy's shoulder says. A voice, a hiss. 2 minutes. Jennifer spreads her hands, magnanimous. You want to search? Search. We have nothing to hide. Appreciate the consent, the taller deputy says smoothly, already moving for the kitchen and common areas. We're not going to tear your house apart, just making sure everyone's safe. She snaps photos with her phone first, mugs the pot, the sink. Before she touches anything, she lifts the towel I use to dry my hands, pauses at the paring knife, looks at the blade the way a woman looks at a cloud before she decides whether to cancel a picnic. She opens the cabinet under the sink and exhales through her nose in a way that isn't a sound so much as a record. Well, look at that. 2 small bottles, caps on crooked liquid the color of weak tea. She doesn't touch them. She calls their existence in like a fisherman calling out weights. Martinez, evidence kit. Jennifer's smile stiffens. That could be anything. Flavoring, bitters, essential oils. Could be, the deputy says. We'll see. The knock of boots on the porch announces help before I see it. Then the room fills with the old carnival of emergency. Stretcher wheels shivering on the threshold. A zipper on a bag that holds more kinds of hope than I care to itemize. A paramedic with kind eyes and salt at his temples snaps gloves on. What's going on, ma'am? He asks me, already looping a pulse ox on my finger like it's a ring I forgot to wear. I give the short version, the way you do when a man's hands are counting your heartbeats, and you no longer own your next 5 minutes. He takes my blood pressure. He frowns in that careful way that means not disaster, but also not nothing. Pressure's soft, pupils a little sluggish. He says to his partner, Any meds tonight, ma'am? Anything new? Just my usual. Lisinopril, baby aspirin this morning. I shake my head. The cider. 1 sip. Any history of arrhythmia? Fainting? No. I look past him at the table, at the lopsided mug that says, Grandma, at the drawing of a house big as a ship. If I go with you, I don't want the kids left here. If this is what it looks like, Officer Martinez says, as if answering a fear she keeps on a shelf in her own house, we're not leaving them in a bad situation. Michael speaks for the first time since the deputies came in with their winter on their shoulders. I didn't put anything in your drink, he says to me. It's almost a whisper. I wouldn't hurt you. Then who did? It's out before I can make it kinder. He looks at Jennifer. She shakes her head tiny like she's telling a fly no. Her voice works up a layer of indignation. You're accusing your daughter of poisoning you because you didn't like my apology drink? That's enough, the taller deputy says, and she positions herself between us with the sort of practiced ease that tells me there are 100 homes in this county with grooves in the floor, in this exact spot. Ma'am, to me, we're going to recommend you get checked out at the hospital. We'll collect what we can here, document it, and file. We'll also be contacting Child Protective Services to advise. Now Michael's eyes jump to his kids as if the word itself were a hand. It's Christmas week. Safety doesn't take holidays, Martinez says, not unkindly. Jennifer's phone lights up on the counter. A name flashes. Vanessa, followed by 3 words. Door in 5. She reaches to flip it face down. Too late for the deputy's eyes not to catch it. Expecting someone? Martinez asks. Friend, Jennifer says, dropping off a thing. Let's keep the door closed for friends for a bit. The deputy doesn't smile. She doesn't need to. The paramedic peels open an EKG sticker with a kind of crispness that tells me he does it a dozen times a shift. We'll get you on the monitor here. If you don't want to ride in, you'll sign a refusal, but I'm telling you, soft pressure and odd taste. I'd go in. I look at Sophie and Ethan. Their faces are like open books nobody taught me to read. New alphabets on paper I thought I knew. Carol, I say. My neighbor. Can she take them? Just tonight. I trust her. Call her. She's in my phone under seatbelt. Martinez nods. We can make a call if Dad consents. She looks to Michael. He hesitates. His eyes go to Jennifer. In that small turn of his head, I see a decade. The difference between a house and a hostage situation can be realized in half a second of permission. Yes, he says finally, voice thin. Yes, if it keeps them from seeing things. Jennifer snaps. What are they going to see, Michael? Their grandmother making a scene. The charming woman in the corduroy jacket goes, out of her voice like a light in a stairwell. Nobody uses. You're not taking my kids anywhere. They are not your bargaining chips, I hear myself say, and the paramedic gives me a look that says, keep it cool for me, ma'am. Which is fair, because wires are on my chest and I have become a small network of blinking lights. Martinez's radio crackles. A punctuation mark. She tilts her head to listen as she talks. Ma'am, here's how this goes. We'll do a protective check. We'll get the children out of the room for a bit. If you consent, sir, we'll let your neighbor take temporary care until we can get family services guidance. If there are substances in play here, the safest place for them is not within reach of children. That's our whole job right now. Michael nods, tears finally getting their purchase. Call her. The paramedic has me stand slow, the way you stand a ladder when you know one leg is a little shorter. The room rocks a fraction, then remembers itself. The partner is already wheeling in a stretcher as backup, not insisting, offering. I sit back down. I do not like the idea of being carted out of my daughter's house like a cautionary tale. I like less the idea of waking up on the floor with my grandchildren watching. Deputy Martinez's partner calls from the kitchen. Jar, 2 droppers, towel, knife bagged. Basement door is locked. Padlock new. Back door chained. Windows latched. We'll stay out of closed spaces, Martinez says for the record. Common areas only. At the front window, red and blue smear the glass into the old language of consequence. Out on the street, a dark sedan idles. Too new for this block. Not a neighbor. The engine's patience makes a circle of exhaust in the cold air, like a coin that keeps landing on its edge. Stay here, Martinez says to me, and she goes to the door with the second deputy behind her. Enough distance to be safe, not enough to be rude. She opens it 2 inches, holds up a hand. Evening, a woman leans into the slice of cold. The kind of lean that assumes doors will open the rest of the way. She's 30-something, hair too neat for a woman who lays tile or hauls pipe. Coat that costs more than a month of ordinary bills. The perfume I smelled rides the air around her like a passenger bored of being quiet. Wrong house, she says, without looking at Martinez's badge. Someone taught her to pretend authority is a rumor. Wrong night, Martinez replies, and shuts the door with a finality that makes the whole frame settle. She throws the deadbolt, because sometimes a woman's body does what a woman's mouth can't. Vanessa, I say to Jennifer, and my daughter's eyes move like a woman who hears the name of a problem she thought wasn't yet a noun. Is that who you invited? Jennifer looks at me like I'm a dead limb she has to decide whether to cut before spring. She's a friend, she says again, but the word has the wrong number of syllables. Ma'am, Martinez says, voice calm but shaped like a wedge. Now we're going to need everyone's phones on the table. Michael obeys so fast, it's like he's been waiting for someone to ask. Sophie and Ethan make a ceremony of it, solemn as marshals. Jennifer hesitates. Her thumb hovers over the screen, long enough to make a woman think about the difference between a swipe and a deletion. Martinez watches her watch herself, then holds out a small evidence bag. Thank you. A text flashes and dies before the lock screen goes black. We're here. You stall, the paramedic's monitor chirps. Pressure still soft. Ma'am, you feeling lightheaded? A little. I'm steady enough to see what matters, and that's a new kind of dizziness. I'll ride in, I tell him, but not until the kids have their coats on and someone I trust has a hand on the doorknob. Fair, he says. We do the coats like it's a drill. Sophie in her purple one with the loose thread I always want to bite off with my teeth. Ethan in his puffy blue with the zipper he forgets every third morning. Michael hands over mittens like he's handing over parts of his own body. Be good, he tells them. Be brave, like firefighters, Ethan says, eyes wide at the lights outside that make everything a cartoon. Exactly, I say. Like that. The second deputy is on the phone. Carol Peterson? This is the county sheriff's office. Your neighbor asked us to call. She listens, nods, looks at me, gives a small thumbs up. Yes, ma'am. Bring ID. We'll be at the front door, Jennifer paces. She is wearing a path in the runner that will be a scar this house remembers. This is insane, she mutters. Overreaction, over what? One sip of too strong cider. Michael, tell them. Michael's voice is small, but it has steel inside. The kind people smuggle in because they're not allowed to own it. I saw the dropper bottle, he says. She was going to... He stops himself, looks at the children, edits mid-sentence like a good mother. Help Mom relax, so she'd listen, so I'd sleep, I say. So you could check my pockets or get me to sign something or keep me from saying no in a way that sticks. I don't raise my voice. I don't have to. The words are heavy enough to make their own weather. Jennifer looks at me, and all the performances fall off her face at once. What's left is a woman who wants to be rescued so badly she'll drown. Everyone in a 10-foot circle to keep her head above. Water. I was trying to save my family, she says. And it is the truest lie I have heard all winter. Boots on the porch again. Not deputies this time. Carol's knock is the exact knock of a neighbor. Firm, apologetic, familiar. Martinez opens, checks a license, eyes the woman like a carpenter checks a board before she steps on it. You're the seatbelt, she says. It's not a question. Always, Carol replies, and she steps in with cold on her coat and a look at me that says nothing except, I'm here. Sophie launches herself at her because children know who has safe pockets. Ethan follows, mitten slapping Carol's arm. Carol crouches, grins, and then glances at the deputies. Where am I taking them for tonight? Martinez says, your house. We'll note the placement. Family services will follow up in the morning. I want them with me, Michael says quickly. Can I go with them? Martinez thinks about it. Actually thinks, which I respect. We'd prefer you stay here until we finish. We'll get your statement. Then you can join them. That okay? His eyes say no. His mouth says yes, because he does the math and comes up with the only number that doesn't bankrupt his kids. Jennifer steps forward like a storm front. You're not stealing my children. We're keeping them safe, Martinez says. You're welcome to help, Jennifer laughs. Small, dangerous, by letting them go with her? She jerks her chin at Carol. You've known her 3 doors down for what, years? I've known her my whole life. You think she doesn't judge me for not changing my own oil, for not mowing in straight lines, for not being her? The last word is acid. I think she'll get them toothbrushes and set the thermostat at a humane number and not put them in a car with a stranger waiting outside, I say. Then I stand, slow, and I think I'm done pretending we can talk this into something it isn't. For a second, I am lightheaded enough to see two versions of my daughter. The girl with grass-stained knees, and the woman who invited wolves to the porch, standing one behind the other, slightly misaligned. Then the room steadies. "Time to go," the paramedic says, not to rush me, but to remind my body the hour is moving, whether my heart has caught up or not. I kneel so I can be eye level with the only two people I came for. "You're going to Carol's," I tell Sophie and Ethan. "I will see you tomorrow. We will make pancakes that look like states and pretend we can name them." Ethan blinks. "I only know a few." "That's okay," I say. "Some of them made themselves hard to remember on purpose." Sophie's hand finds my sleeve. "Will Mom come?" I swallow. "She will come when the grown-ups finish some hard conversations, and I will make sure those conversations happen in rooms where the truth can hear itself." She nods like she's memorizing that sentence the way I memorized batting lineups 50 years ago. Carol stands. "Ready, crew. Ready," they say, which is courage in its first coat. Martinez escorts them to the door. She looks out through the glass at the sedan, still idling, and then at her partner, who has drifted that way like a planet with a badge. The sedan pulls away, slow, embarrassed by how much attention it didn't want. Good. I don't need an audience. I need my grandchildren in a house where towels only dry hands. Michael hugs each child in a way that makes me want to leave the room to give him privacy. I can't afford to. Brush teeth. "Say thank you. Be kind," he says, the Holy Trinity. "I love you." Jennifer stands 3 feet away and says nothing. The distance is a puzzle only she could solve, and she refuses to pick up the first piece. The door closes. The house rebalances. The paramedics move to guide me to the stretcher like it's a new phase of the evening instead of a verdict. "Officer," I say, "there's a mug on the table. Handmade. It says Grandma. Please don't let it get lost in the evidence circus." Martinez looks, and her eyes do a small human thing. We'll photo it and leave it here. Evidence-wise, the mug that matters is the one with residue, and we've already bagged the glass you were drinking from. Keep the gift. I breathe out something I didn't know I had been holding. "Thank you." Jennifer can't help herself. "So that's it. You call the cops, wreck my family's Christmas, and then you get to be the hero in an ambulance." I meet her eyes. "Exactly. I called a friend. She called the law. And none of this is about Christmas." She moves like she might try to step between me and the stretcher. Some old instinct to block cultivated in school hallways and never retired. Martinez's hand comes up. Not even close to touching her, and somehow the space fills with the word no so clearly she stops. "Don't," Michael whispers, and the syllable has all the weight a life can build. The paramedics and I do our dance. I lie back, wires doing their tail flicks. The stretcher clicks. The house ceiling passes over me, familiar in a strange way. The shadow of the ceiling fan laying a shape on my sweater, like a benediction that doesn't know what it's blessing. We reach the door. Cold hits my face like truth. On the porch, Carol is buckling Sophie into her back seat, her breath making small ghosts. She looks up, our eyes catch. She lifts 2 fingers in a salute she only uses when I'm doing something she approves of and hates. "Pancakes," she mouths. "States," I mouth back. The paramedics load me. The red and blue fold across the windshield in the snow, like someone is trying to teach the neighborhood new colors with a ruler and a light bulb. Inside the rig, the kind-eyed one adjusts the blanket. When you're old enough, this is what tenderness feels like. Cotton tucked under your elbow by a stranger doing his job well. Through the back door's small windows, I see Martinez talking to Michael at the threshold. His face is bare. Whatever he had to spend on defending, he has spent. What's left is a man who will be making lists before dawn. Lawyers, schools, winter boots for kids who grow faster than budgets. Jennifer stands alone in the hall, a woman in a jacket meant to communicate solidity. She looks smaller than the coat. The doors thump. The paramedic gives me the look women give each other when they have both built things and had them fall down in front of witnesses. Hospital's 20 minutes. You did the right thing, ma'am. Feels like tearing a bandage off skin that still needs it, I say. Better than letting the wound close over something that doesn't belong there. We roll. The siren doesn't blare. We don't need speed. We need arrival. My phone buzzes against my ribs. A text from Carol. Kids, okay? Purple and blue coats achieved. Call when you can. House warm at 70 because I'm not a monster. I grin despite myself. I text back with clumsy thumbs. Don't spoil them. Then spoil them. Streetlights blink through the frost at the edges of the window. The town. The one I taught my niece how to walk in after long shifts. The one where my husband found the good cinnamon. The one where my daughter once learned how to ride a bike without looking where her front wheel was pointed. Goes by at a pace a woman can forgive. At the hospital, the paramedics hand me to nurses who smell like soap and the kind of focus you can't teach. Vitals. Lab tubes labeled like cousins. Questions in pairs. We'll do a screen, a nurse says. We see this more than you'd think. I do not ask her what this means. I have my own definition. She takes my mugging of humor in stride when I tell her I hope they don't charge extra if they find nutmeg. When she leaves, I look at the ceiling and do the arithmetic I have been avoiding. If tests show something, there will be forms to sign and statements to give, and words like intent and exposure and risk of harm will sit on papers with spaces under them for my name. There will be no easy way out that is both kind and honest. There will be mornings when Sophie asks me if a house can stop loving someone who lives in it, and I will have to answer without breaking anything. My phone shivers again. A message from a number I don't know. We can still talk if you're reasonable. No name. I set the phone face down and breathe like a woman counting down a clock. 20 minutes later, Carol sends a photo. 2 kids asleep under a flannel throw. I recognize the one with geese that always looks like it would rather be a quilt in a cabin. Between them on the coffee table sits a mug, my mug, full of crayons like fireworks. She has already put it to work. The good kind. I text back. Tell them I'll call for breakfast. Save some syrup for me. I let myself close my eyes. When you've been the adult in the room long enough, sleep can feel like negligence. Tonight it feels earned. I wake to a nurse's shoes and the beep of a monitor that thinks I'm more interesting than I am. You're staying overnight, she says. Observation. Your labs show a sedative. We'll know more in the morning. Is it the kind that makes you talk nonsense? I ask because humor is the only pocket change I always have. She smiles despite herself. It's the kind that can make you fall. You did the right thing coming in. Did I do the right thing leaving them? It's out before I can be brave enough to keep it. You didn't leave them, she says, tucking the blanket like the paramedic did. Like my husband used to do at 3 a.m. when the house was big and the furnace louder. You sent them where they'd be okay. That's the line. I carry that with me when the lights dim to hospital twilight and the world becomes beeps and sheets. That and the small photo on my phone of 2 kids and a mug that spells a name. I earned the hard way. Red and blue flashed. People did their jobs. The night tilted and didn't dump us. Tomorrow there will be court words and papers and women who smell like perfume, waiting in cars that don't belong on our block. But tonight, my grandchildren are asleep in a house that only keeps one kind of bottle under the sink: vinegar. If I stumble tomorrow, it won't be because I forgot what I'm here for. It'll be because the road throws ice at honest tires. And if that happens, I know who has the sand and where she keeps it. If I go in angry, the judge will only hear the storm. If I go in clear, maybe she'll hear the nails that keep a house. Together. Hospitals have a dawn that isn't sunrise. So much as permission. A nurse wheels me to discharge with a printout that says sedative detected in words that, don't blink, follow up with your primary. She says, drink water, rest, let the officers know if you get headaches or dizziness. I have a neighbor with opinions, I tell her. She'll enforce the water part. Carol is in the lobby already, a paper cup in her hand, and my red sweater folded over her forearm like a flag that learned manners. Kids ate pancakes shaped like Idaho and New Jersey, she says. We're working up to the more ambitious ones. Save Texas for when we have a whole afternoon, I say. She looks at my discharge papers, her mouth a tight line she doesn't make me comment on. County called while you were asleep. Emergency hearing at 2. Family division. They'll cover placement for the kids and some protective stuff for you if you want it. Wanted isn't the verb, I say. Need is. We stop at my house for the suit that still fits because grief made me thinner, and time didn't argue. I write down the kids' toothbrushes in Carol's guest bath, check the thermostat, tell the walls I won't be long. The house answers by smelling like heat and dust, which is as close as walls get to a hug. At noon, Michael texts from a number the deputy gave me. We are at my sister's till the hearing. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. The kids keep asking if the mug is on your counter. It is, I text back. He adds a photo. And there it is. Blue glaze, grandma. Letters leaning on one another like old women on a curb. Bring the mug, Carol says. Lucky Charms are allowed. By 1:40, the courthouse hallway is all winter coats and voices low enough to feel like weather. A posted sign says, Family Matters, Hearing Room 3, in the font of institutions that would rather be invisible. The benches are too hard for the things people are doing on them. We sit anyway. The door opens, and a woman with a tablet and a calm that has seen worse says our names in a cluster. Mitchell, Peterson, family of Michael and Jennifer, come on in. The hearing room is a conference table with aspirations. No jury box, no gallery, just a judge at the head, a clerk, 2 chairs to one side for deputies, and space enough for today's version of a family to fit without bumping elbows. The judge is small and precise, hair silver, eyes that do not waste a person's time. A guardian ad litem sits farther down with a folder, already thick the way snow gets around mailbox posts. Layer by layer, not all at once. Good afternoon, the judge says. We're here on an emergency basis, so this will be brief and to the point. Counsel, please enter your appearances. Attorneys' names do their small bow. Some private, some court-appointed. I get one of the latter. A young woman with a good tie and a manner that suggests she reads more than she speaks. I like her already. The judge looks at me. Miss Mitchell, I understand you sought medical attention after a suspected exposure. Yes, Your Honor. And you requested law enforcement presence at your daughter's home during a family dinner. My neighbor called them at my request. A safety plan. She nods like that word does work for her. We have the deputy's report, EMS notes, the hospital's preliminary talk screen, and a chain of custody log for items retrieved from the kitchen. 3 small dropper bottles, a kitchen towel, a knife, and a glass containing residue. We also have text message screenshots, obtained by consent at the scene. She raises one eyebrow, the way a person does when they intend to be neutral, and their face still has an opinion. We'll start with the deputies. The taller deputy from last. Knight steps forward, hat in hand. Her voice is the same temperature it was in my kitchen. She walks through the timeline as if laying boards. Knock pattern, my statements, what they bagged, the sedan outside, the phones on the table. She mentions the smell I described, the bottles under the sink, the list in the trash with my house written on it like an item you could pick up on the way home. Any observation of the children's condition? The judge asks. Then they were alert, calm, no signs of ingestion or distress. We recommended removal to a safe third party pending this hearing. Dad consented. And Mom? Resisted the removal verbally. the deputy says, eyes steady. No physical interference. There was a text on her phone from a contact saved as Vanessa, referencing arrival and stalling. The judge nods, makes a note, looks to the paramedic who has sat quietly at the edge like a man comfortable in rooms where other people are in charge. He testifies without drama. Blood pressure soft, pupils sluggish, recommendation to transport, the hospital decision to observe, the tox screen's preliminary result, zolpidem present. He says the drug name like a measurement that doesn't care who it belongs to. Thank you, the judge says. Now, Mr. Michael. Michael stands. His hands are clenched around a tissue, as if tissues are about tensile strength and not paper. I didn't put anything in her drink, he says. First to me, as if he has to finish the conversation we started around a pot roast. But I should have stopped what was going to happen. I should have said we're not doing this. Out loud. With witnesses. His attorney touches his sleeve. Tell the court about the bottles. He swallows. I bought them at the pharmacy. My wife asked me to. She said they were for bitters, like for old fashions, and for kids' cough syrups for the winter. She told me to peel the labels because they got sticky. He stops. You can hear the argument he had alone in his head. What if I say this out loud, and our life changes shape forever? Then he keeps going. When she asked me to hand her one last night, I realized that it wasn't cough syrup. He stops. She said it would help her mom relax so she'd listen. She said it was harmless. Did you believe her? The judge asks. Yes, he says, and then smaller. No, I don't know. I didn't want to find out. The guardian ad litem clears her throat. Your Honor, I spoke with the children this morning at Ms. Peterson's home. She glances at me, and there's a human flicker there, not just casework. They were comfortable, oriented, and asked appropriate questions. Where Dad was, when Grandma would call, whether pancakes count as a vegetable. She smiles faintly. Neither child reported being offered a drink last night beyond water. Sophie described smelling something spicy and like soap in the kitchen. Ethan, in his language, described Mom saying, "Don't be dramatic," to Grandma when Grandma stood up. I look at my hands. The lines there look deeper under fluorescent lights. Your recommendation? The judge asks. Temporary placement with their father, the guardian says. Immediate safety plan in his household. No unrelated adults allowed overnight. Consent for random home visits. Supervised parenting time for their mother at a neutral center pending the criminal investigation. A no-contact protective order for Ms. Mitchell, except through counsel. And a stay away from her residence and place of worship, if applicable. The judge turns to me. Ms. Mitchell, do you have anything to add? Yes, I say, and the word stands there like a post I must nail more boards to before the weather shifts. I love my daughter. The room doesn't change temperature, but something in it loosens a fraction. And I won't sell my house. Those two sentences have to stand next to each other, or the rest of this makes no sense. I believe the children are safest with their father right now. I'm willing to supervise his visits when the center can't schedule, if the court allows, and if the guardian agrees. I take a breath. And I want a protective order that keeps her from my property for a while. Not as punishment. As scaffolding. Scaffolding? The judge repeats, intrigued. So she can build something without leaning on me, I say. Carol's hand rests on the table edge next to mine, not touching, like a guardrail. You don't have to test to know it'll hold. The judge nods again, then looks toward the door where late arrivals slip in on soft soles. A woman in a suit that shines sits in the last chair. A briefcase that looks like it doesn't know what a dent is perched beside her. She whispers to someone by the wall, then raises her hand in the polite ambition of people who believe their turn is a formality. And you are? The judge asks. Counsel for Miss Jennifer, she says smoothly. She'll be here shortly? No, the judge says, not unkindly. She missed case call. She can review the recording later. We proceed. The lawyer tries a smile built for other rooms. If I may, Your Honor, I'd like to present a letter from a mobile notary regarding a planned visit last night. It may clarify that my client's intention was to bring lawful order to a family asset, not to bring it up, the judge says. The clerk takes the letter, passes it to the judge. She reads, lips moving a millimeter, as if parsing a foreign grammar. Her eyebrow climbs its small ladder again. Interesting. What is it? The guardian asks. The judge sets the letter down, with a care that suggests she might later touch it with gloves. A mobile notary. Reports being booked by Ms. Jennifer for a time flex. Visit yesterday evening to witness. Signatures on a quitclaim. Deed transferring ownership of Ms. Mitchell's residence to Ms. Jennifer. The notary declined when told the signatory was elderly and likely to be emotional. And that we'll keep the lights low so she doesn't get agitated. The notary provided screenshots of the text exchange and cancelled the appointment. The room inhales as one. Even the fluorescent lights sound different. Unexpected details don't always explode. Sometimes they land like a small perfect nail that happens to be exactly where the structure needed one, and you feel the whole frame stiffen. My attorney clears her throat, voice calm. Your Honor. Combined with the preliminary tox report and the deputies' findings, the notary's letter establishes enough for coercion concerns. We renew the request for protective orders. Granted, the judge says, not waiting for her to finish the sentence. She rattles off terms that will be real in 20 minutes. Stay away radius. No late-night contact. No third-party messaging. No proxy harassment. She orders exchange of the children at a supervised site, not in parking lots. She orders a key surrender if my daughter has duplicates to my house. She says the words temporary custody and without prejudice. And by the time she finishes, a map of the next month lies on the table like a new street plan. Mr. Michael, the judge adds, there's one more matter. The dropper bottles. Did you purchase the contents? Michael looks like the floor just shifted. I bought melatonin and a tincture labeled Herbal Sleep, he says quickly. Over the counter. I didn't purchase Zolpidem. Your Honor, the deputy interjects. To clarify, 2 bottles contained liquid inconsistent with the labeled products. One appears to be dissolved tablets. The third smells of whiskey. All labeled bottles we've located at the residence remain sealed. Understood, the judge says. Then to Michael, Sir, this is not a criminal tribunal for you today, but your house must be boring for a while. No friends of your wife's, no experiments, no new locks. You understand? Yes. Michael says it like the tissue in his hand has become a damp rope. The judge's tone softens by a half-inch. You can't fix what you didn't break, but you can stop participating. That's your job now. The door opens again. My daughter slips in, face wearing the apology she thinks will fix everything. The bailiff lifts a hand. The judge doesn't let the disruption be a disruption. You missed case call, she says. We've already heard testimony. Do you have anything to add before I rule? She finds the lawyer with the shiny briefcase, and a squeezed whisper passes like a note in 8th grade. Then she looks at me like a drowning person considers driftwood. Mom, she starts. Address the court, ma'am. She does the math and picks the only number available. I was trying to fix a mess, she says. The notary was to get things clear legally so we could refinance, not to steal anything. The bottles. My husband misunderstood. I would never hurt my mother. She's dramatic. We needed her calm so we could talk. That's all? The judge waits her out the way you wait out a microwave. No reason to open the door early. It just makes the next minute longer. The court is not interested in why you think your mother should be calm in your house while you transfer her house into your own name, she says. We are interested in safety today. She starts to say something, and her lawyer pulls her sleeve under the table. I remember the girl, with the grass-stained knees, and the woman on my porch, At 10 p.m. practicing pitches she believed I would have to catch. Here are my orders, the judge says, and the clerk's pen starts its sprint. Temporary placement of the minor children with their father. Mother to have supervised parenting time twice weekly at the family visitation center. Mother to undergo a substance use evaluation and an anger management intake within 10 days. No contact by mother with Ms. Mitchell in any form except through counsel. Mother shall not come within 250 feet of Ms. Mitchell's residence, garage, place of worship, or workplace, if any. Mother shall surrender any keys to Ms. Mitchell's residence by 5 p.m. today to the sheriff's office. Law enforcement retains seized items pending the ongoing criminal investigation. Guardian ad litem to follow up in 14 days with a report. We will reconvene in 30 days for review. Questions? My daughter's hand twitches like a woman who'd like to pound a nail into an already finished chair because the chair has the bad manners to be finished without her help. She swallows whatever she was going to say. The judge looks each of us in the face, long enough to make it count. This is a season, not a sentence, she says. I suggest you treat it that way. Next case. We spill back into the hallway where coats and low voices wait to collect us. The guardian meets me by the water fountain and hands me a photocopy of the orders like a map to a place I already live. Ms. Mitchell, she says, if you're willing to be a backup supervisor when the center is full, I'll put you on the list, but only if you agree to call 911 if anything goes sideways, not talk it out. I prefer my sideways handled by professionals, I say. Talking is for rooms without knives. She smiles in a way that will probably be the only smile I get from the system this week. And that isn't an apology for a delay. Good. Michael approaches with his sister at his elbow for ballast. Thank you, he says to me, voice raw. He doesn't finish, because gratitude has too many letters for a hallway. I don't want thanks, I say. I want the children to outgrow their winter boots before the soles crack. He nods too fast. We'll come by for the toothbrushes and the mug. He gestures at the photo on my phone, as if the mug were a person already in the family. It's riding with me, I say. Front seat! Carol loops her coat scarf once, twice like she's measuring a beam. I'll get the kids after school tomorrow, and we'll hand them to you at the center at 5. She tells Michael. No parking lot exchanges. We read the paper. Bless you, he says. And he means it, which is a currency I don't spend often. My daughter waits near the elevators with her new lawyer, looking like a woman who bought a mirror and didn't enjoy what it told her. She watches us leave like we stole something. Maybe we did. The future in her head where everything rearranged itself at her convenience. Those futures were always counterfeit, anyway. Outside, the air has sharpened. Snow tick-tick-ticks on the steps like small nails choosing where they'll be needed later. Carol breathes out, and the steam makes ghosts. You did good in there, she says. I didn't swear, I say. That's a victory. We drive to her place for the afternoon because her living room has the children's shape in it. And mine, for a few hours, will smell like court papers and decisions. Sophie and Ethan return from their aunt's house with ketchup on their sleeves and a report about a cat who fears nobody. They listen while we lay out the week with them like we're plotting a trip. School, the supervised room with toys you can't take home, pancakes Saturday. We don't say their mother's name for a while. When we do, it's in the present tense. Because lies don't help children sleep. That night, when the house is finally quiet and the red sweater is back on its hanger, I sit at my kitchen table with a legal pad and write a letter I won't mail. Daughter, I begin, because a woman should write the name she means, even if she doesn't send it through a system that will stamp it somewhere far away. I will attend your supervised hour if they ask me to stand in the corner and shut up. I will not be your witness for a deed. I will help your kids with homework and teach them the state shapes I still know. And I will not move my furniture into a storage unit because you found a notary who travels. I stop. I draw a box around the next sentence because it matters. I love you, and I will watch you do this without me. At the bottom, I write the phrase the judge said, season, not sentence. And underline it, not because it's hopeful, because it's true in the way winter is true. It ends when it's done. Not because you ask. Before bed, I go outside with my boots unlaced because old habits outlive good sense. I stand on the porch and look at the street where the plow has left a lip of ice at the curb. A trip hazard for a woman who forgets her own feet. Across the way, Mr. Thompson's lights glow fat and cheerful, and for a second, I let myself believe houses do choose sides, after all. The trick is to be the person a house can root for. The trick is to be boring enough that safety doesn't have to announce itself with sirens. Inside, I set the mug, blue, lopsided, perfect, on my counter. I put 3 new pencils in it because you can always use a pencil in a kitchen. I place the protective order next to it under a magnet shaped like a lemon, and the rip in the paper on my daughter's fridge flashes in my mind. The way the magnet's bite looked like teeth. Not this kitchen, I tell the air. And the air, polite as always, doesn't argue. Tomorrow, there will be insurance calls and a locksmith and the purchase of a new deadbolt with a keyway my daughter doesn't have in any drawer she thinks is hers. There will be a visit center where plastic toys have seen 1,000 careful hours and a staff that knows exactly how to sit in a chair so as not to escalate anything that would rather climb. There will be a judge's words becoming a binder on a shelf in an office that handles worse. And there will be 2 children who will count on me to show up with snacks and games and a promise not to say anything that would make the room colder. Rinse the pie cutter and set it in the drainer. The house gives one of those small settling noises old lumber makes when temperature changes, as if to say, still here. I turn off the light and let the rooms darken in the order they prefer. The red sweater hangs in its place like something that remembers warmth even when it isn't wearing it. If I have to choose between being bitter and being a wall, I will be the wall. People lean on walls. Walls don't move. And when spring comes, and it will, I want this house to already know which direction we're facing. If I try to heat the whole winter at once, I'll just burn the pot. Better to keep one small flame steady and build around it. The morning after court tastes like old coffee and new paper. I pin the judge's orders to my corkboard with a thumbtack I've been saving for something that mattered, then put the blue grandma mug beside the phone with 3 pencils inside. 1 sharp, 1 dull, 1 broken down to a stubborn nub. Carol drops by with donuts and a look that says, I'll let you be quiet first. We have a schedule, I tell her, reading off the week like a bus route. Wednesday, 5 p.m., Family Visitation Center. Saturday morning, same. I can be backup supervisor if the center's full. The Guardian will call in 2 weeks. Keys surrendered by 5 yesterday, which I assume involved cussing and a polite deputy. Michael's with his sister for now. Good, she says. She gestures to the thermostat. And you're at 68. Kids bump it to 70, I say. I'm not a monster, she grins. Progress. At noon, I call my lawyer, the one who did our wills the year the roof gave us excuses. She answers like a woman who keeps her calendar in her bones. We should update some things, I say. Executor, healthcare proxy, instructions for the house. If I step in a pothole wrong, I want the path clear. We can do that, she says. Thursday at 11. Bring names. Bring any promises you've already made to yourself. I make a list. Names of people who show up when it's hard. The list is shorter than it used to be, and somehow heavier. At the bottom, I write the children's names in block letters like I'm labeling school supplies. Then underline each once, not twice. Once is a promise. Twice is a superstition. The Family Visitation Center looks like every room that has ever tried to be safer than the rest of the world. Low shelves, Laminated posters with rules set in sentences that try to keep their voices kind. Use gentle hands. Use inside words. If you need help, ask. There's a table of board. Games with pieces that refuse to stay in. They're boxes because pieces prefer adventure to. Containment. A staffer named Serena shakes my hand and speaks in a tone aimed at the muscles between a person's heart and their ribs. If you're back up, she says, you sit in the corner and pretend the world is smaller than it feels. We'll intervene if anyone makes it bigger than it should be. I'm good at corners, I tell her. I worked a lifetime near rails and edges. The kids are there first with Michael, who looks like a runner at mile 20. Upright through technique and will, face doing business with gravity. Sophie runs at me, a direct line of math proofs and freckles. Ethan follows, feet slapping linoleum like a drumline. Grandma, they have Connect 4, he announces, as if this alone justifies the existence of the building. They also have a no-syrup policy, I say, bending to hug them. We will respect it like gentlewomen and gentlemen. Jennifer enters a minute later with a counselor and a smile she calibrated in the car. The room tilts around the edges. Serena positions herself in a chair that looks like it was chosen by a committee. Soft enough to not feel like surveillance, hard enough to remind everyone why we're here. Hey, kiddos, my daughter says, hands out like she expects 2 people to fit inside her reach. Look at this place. They do, because they are children, and rooms do matter. She talks about their school day, their cat at their aunt's, a new video game trailer. The counselor compliments her. Positive engagement. Like she's practicing praise she can deploy later. I sit in my assigned corner with my hands around nothing and remind myself what walls do. Hold. Wait. Leave a little air for breath. Refuse to argue with the weather. When the hour ends, and it ends exactly at 60 minutes because safety is a metronome, Jennifer stands halfway. Like part of her wants to bolt, and the other part wants to argue, and none of her wants to say what matters. She looks at me once. The look bounces. Good job, Serena says to the room, which is not about merit so much as about we all survived the first turn. On the drive home, I tell the kids about my plan for Saturday. Pancakes shaped like states. No cheating by claiming circles are Ohio. Ohio is sort of a circle, Sophie argues, but with a hat. Hatless, I decree. If we can't see Lake Erie from the skillet, it doesn't count. At my house, we do small chores because work calms hands. Ethan lines up AA batteries in a row on the counter and announces, "They look like marching soldiers." Sophie reads the instructions from the model airplane kit with the seriousness of a person who knows that a wing is not just a wing. It is the argument a thing makes with gravity. We start seedlings on the sunny window, over the sink because February is eager, or it is nothing. I show them how to pinch the peat pods and tuck the tomato seeds in. Not too deep, not too shallow, and Sophie labels popsicle sticks with a tongue out the ear, side of her mouth the way her grandfather used to write grocery lists. Ethan writes his name on everything he can find in pencil because possession is a way to make the world hold still. We set a desk lamp low over the tray, because I don't own grow lights, and the sun in the Colorado winter has meetings elsewhere. 1 light, I tell them, held close, is better than 10 lights far away. Sophie nods like I've quoted a law of physics. Maybe I have. Maybe it applies to people. At night, when the house gets quiet and the baseboard heaters do their small, metallic clicks like a dog settling, I pull out my bank statements and the folder with the kids' college brochures my husband collected even when they were toddlers. Not because he expected Princeton, but because paper is a way a life can say maybe. I can't undo the hole my daughter dug. I can make sure the kids have rope within reach when they start climbing. I drive to the credit union the next morning and sit with a woman named Ms. Chen, who has the kind of glasses that mean she solves the same puzzle for 10 people a day, and still likes it. I'd like to open 2 education savings accounts, I tell her. Modest, automatic, the kind of slow that adds up. We can do that, she says. Names? I say them like prayer. She taps keys, clicks tabs. Beneficiaries? Each other, then their father, I say. And if something happens to all of us, my neighbor Carol as custodian until they're grown, because she is a stubborn woman with good sense. I pause. Also one for emergencies, not named after anything. Why money? She says, smiling. Rain fund. We'll call it that when we're done. My savings is lighter by a number that would have frightened me last month, and feels like oxygen now. I leave with paper I won't show the kids yet, and a little stack of deposit slips I will feed with $20 bills, the way you feed birds before a cold snap. Afternoons become a new rhythm, with a few loud clacks where the gears don't yet line up. Carol does pickups on her days. I do mine on others. Michael texts when he can breathe. The Guardian calls, and I answer questions with sentences that make a ladder. Yes, I will bring snacks that do not crumble into arguments. No, I will not ask the children to carry messages. Yes, I will leave if Serena raises an eyebrow the particular way that means we are done. One Tuesday, the kids' school invites special friends to read aloud in the library. I put on the tie my husband liked because it has a crooked stripe only I notice, and I take blueberries for Sal because, as far as I'm concerned, that book is the closest a story gets to a porch. I read with my voice in its softer register, and watch the class wolves turn into lambs when the onomatopoeia hits. Kerplink, kerplank, kerplunk. Sophie sits straight in the front row and does not smile because she is pretending she is above. This, and also, it is everything, Ethan, raises his hand to say, we have a pie recipe at our house. And I correct him, my house. And the librarian pretends she doesn't see what the correction costs that weekend. Letters arrive like a weather front, one from the prosecutor's office in an envelope that refuses to be anything else. Charges filed against my daughter, the words staccato and shaped. Administering a substance without consent, attempted coercion, interference with custody. Another from a lender addressed to Michael, care of his sister's address, with the tone of paper that mistakes foreclosure for a form of neighborliness. Notice of default. Sale scheduled in 60 days. The same old lie from different mouths. It's just business. I take the letters to Carol's kitchen because her table has seen as many hard conversations as mine, and it's good to change rooms when the words are heavy. We can pay the arrears, I say, and the sentence nearly breaks itself on my tongue, or part of them. Or the deposit on a new place before the gavel drops. I can't plug her hole. I can put boards over the kids' heads. Carol pours coffee black as a decision. Boards first, she says. Then we see if there's paint left. Michael agrees like a person hanging onto a handrail. I won't ask you for money, he says. You're not? I say. I'm telling you, my Christmas present to myself is hearing your children argue about where to put their winter boots in an entryway you can afford. We go to see a small rental on the south side of Riverside with radiator heat, and a landlord who says boilers like the world's simplest poem. The entryway is 3 steps deep and smells like dust that has been good, not the kind that hides secrets. The bedrooms are narrow as apology, but the windows get morning light, and the kitchen has a proper table corner where a kid can do math while soup decides to be soup. The rent is honest. The deposit is ugly. I pay it with the money I once saved for a trip to see a lake bigger than my feelings, and discover the lake I needed was here the whole time. You sure? Michael asks at the lease, pen hovering. I'm not buying you a house, I say. I'm buying the month where you breathe. After that, we all write checks and lunches and histories and see where we are. Signs. The landlord shakes hands like a man who knows his pipes. Sophie claims the room with the smaller window because she wants her bed where the morning will find her slow. Ethan claims the one with the closet because closets are caves, and caves make sense to boys who have discovered forts. We clean. We scrub cabinets and lay shelf paper that refuses to behave. Ethan tries to help and turns the paper into an origami animal that hates its life. Sophie peels and resets and peels again, until she breathes in time with the pattern. Get on a step stool. I have no business climbing. And replace the battery in a smoke detector that chirps like an anxious cricket. Carol shows up with a toolbox like Santa for people who understand hinges. Thermostat's dumb, she declares, holding the old one like a fossil. We put in a programmable model together. Her reading glasses perched, me pretending wires are just pipe but flatter. We set weekdays and weekends, mornings and nights. We give warmth a schedule so it can show up even when nobody remembers to ask. At dinner in the new kitchen, we eat grilled cheese because butter and bread is a covenant. The kids dunk triangles in tomato soup, and the steam fogs their faces in a way that makes every adult at the table want to use the good camera. I bring over the children's toothbrushes from my place in A, Ziploc with their names in black marker and set them in a cup next to the sink, not the blue mug that stays at my house with the pencils. We need 1 anchor per address. 2 anchors is how boats tear themselves in storms. The family visitation center becomes a place with predictable rituals, like church. Check in, sign the clipboard, hands checked for nothing but nerves, a plastic clock with a second hand that moves like a stubborn beetle. My daughter brings a board, game 1 week, and tries to reteach her kids how to be a family without mentioning how she almost traded them for a deed. The counselor praises parent-led play. Michael and I sit in chairs that belong to the state and practice not saying, remember when, unless the memory can carry itself without doing anybody injury. Once, midway through Candyland, Ethan says, "Can we all be at Grandma's house again when it snows?" Jennifer looks up like the board of directors called her back into the room. Her face loosens, then shuts. She says, "Someday." Like a woman hoping the sound of a word can do the work it is not yet permitted to do. "Someday," I echo. And Serena raises that particular eyebrow. So I add, "When the grown-ups do the paperwork, right?" The kids accept this because children accept the way gravity works, even when they don't admire it. At home, my seedlings stretch like they believe in spring. We rotate the tray a quarter turn each morning so they don't grow crooked chasing light we can't afford. Sophie charts the heights on graph paper, colors each bar a different shade of hope. Ethan learns the trick of misting with a spray bottle without soaking the soil so much it sulks. We make a contest out of who remembers to unplug the lamp before bed, because safety is a habit you feed the way you feed pets. On Thursdays, I go to the credit union and push a little money across the counter toward the rain fund and the kids' future, as if discipline could change the weather. On Fridays, I take Soup to Michael's new kitchen and fix the door latch that doesn't catch unless you tell it a joke. Carol and I install a deadbolt with a keyway my daughter doesn't have in any drawer. She thinks is hers. When the locksmith hands over the tiny paper envelope with the spare keys and says, "Keep one somewhere nobody will think to look," I slip one into the back of my husband's old cookbook under chicken and dumplings because the only thief who ever looked there was the kind who steals time. The setback arrives the way bad news likes to. On a Tuesday, when the sun's being cocky, a letter from my daughter's lawyer to mine, thick with words that try to be knives. My client is concerned about alienation. She asserts her mother is unduly influencing the minors and their father. She demands the immediate return of certain personal property left at Ms. Mitchell's residence. The list that follows includes the pie cutter, which makes me laugh so hard the sound scares the little seedlings. There is also a line about grandmother's hubristic withholding of familial resources, which is a long way to say no tastes bad, my lawyer calls. "Ignore the heat," she says. "We'll return anything that is hers, and not evidence. The rest is smoke." "Smoke still stings," I say. "Put a fan in the window," she replies. The next visitation, Jennifer arrives late with a jaw tuned too tight. She plays checkers the way a woman checks crossword boxes, not like a person glad to be in a room with her children. When the hour ends, she lingers by the coat tree. "Mom," she starts. Serena tilts her head a fraction. We all see the permission slip that will not be signed. "Not here," I say, and my voice doesn't shake, which is a miracle or blood pressure. "Talk to your lawyer, not through your kids." She looks like she wants to throw a piece. A king, maybe. Across the carpet just to see something. Fly. She doesn't. She leaves. It is the first good choice I have seen her make since she decided to be charming. In a kitchen with the wrong bottle. In her hand, I bless it in silence all the way to the parking lot. At month's end, the guardian comes to my house with a clipboard and shoes. She takes off at the door without being asked. She sees the mug. She sees the chart of seedlings on the fridge. She sees the protective order under the lemon magnet and pretends not to read it, because nobody needs to be catalogued more than once. She sits at my table and asks what I do when I get angry. "I sand," I say, showing her a cutting board I've taken down to the grain. "And I walk. And I write letters I don't mail. And I put money in accounts with other people's names on them. The kind of money that takes a long time to become anything, which is a good way to measure patience." She writes that down like it is an answer to a question the form cares about. "Maybe it is. Do you want her to go to jail?" she asks, which is not a trick. Just a light turned on. "I want my grandchildren safe," I say. "I want my daughter honest. If jail is a bridge to either, then yes. If it is only a room with fluorescent lights where she learns better tricks, then no. I don't get to choose. I only get to stand where the children can find me when they're ready to leave a room." She nods. "Thank you." That evening, the power flickers twice and fails. The house makes the sound of an apology. I light 2 candles in hurricane glasses because our fire marshal would haunt me if I did it any other way. The radiator pipes sigh like a tired choir. I call Michael to say, "We're out too. We've got blankets and tomato soup if you need a pot to warm on a camp stove." He laughs. The good kind. The one that makes a person 5 years younger for exactly 8 seconds. "We're okay," he says. "Ethan's wearing 2 sweaters and Sophie is negotiating with a flashlight." "Tell her to be kind," I say. "Flashlights don't owe her anything." "We'll try," he says, then softer. "Thank you for the month." "It's only a month," I say, and what I mean is, I will pay another if I have to, and call it groceries for the heart. When the lights thud back to life, the furnace runs with a newly earnest sound, the house as glad as a dog whose people came home. I blow out the candles and sit in the chair my husband used to claim when the weather shook. I hold the blue mug. I put the broken pencil in it alongside the sharp one, because broken things belong in kitchen tools too. The seedlings lean toward the window because plants are hopeful fools, and also correct. On the last Saturday of the month, the children and I make pancakes shaped like states, and I disqualify 2 that look suspiciously like blobs. We do Maine right on the 3rd try. We fail Wisconsin because the skillet refuses to admit the concept of a door peninsula. We don't even attempt the Great Lakes. That's a soup map, I say. And this is a griddle day. After breakfast, we take the old hand drill from the basement and make 3 holes in a cedar board for plant markers. Tomato, basil, beans, Ethan writes. Beans like the word is a cat and might run away. Sophie paints a tiny red sweater in the corner of the tomato marker, and I pretend not to cry into the sink. "Spring soon," Ethan announces, because he's been counting the number of days the weatherman says below freezing, and he can feel the averages shifting. "It's a season, not a sentence," I say, and Sophie rolls, her eyes because grown-ups love to quote, "Judges like scripture when it suits them." We put on coats and walk the block to Carol's because she claims she's invented hot chocolate that tastes like campfire. It tastes like chocolate that sat near a campfire and heard stories without getting smoke in its eyes. She pretends not to be, pleased when the children make sounds the human mouth evolved. For this exact purpose, on the way home, we stop at Michael's and bring the kids inside to see the sunset throw nickels at the new kitchen window. We stand there. Me, Michael, 2 children who have memorized, our faces as if they were map legends. And we listen to the house try out its own version of warm. It gets better with the practice of responsible. Thermostats, the landlord came by and banged on a radiator with a wrench and declared, "The rattle fixed." Sophie shows me her reading log with a row of stars sharp enough to cut a ribbon. Ethan shows me a Lego spaceship that is technically not to scale, and I call it beautiful, because correctness is a luxury for years with fewer sirens. On my way back to my own front steps, the night tries the air on like a new jacket. The porch light hums. The mailbox has one more envelope, thin, from the county. I open it right there because waiting has become something I'd rather do less of. It's a calendar. 30-day review. A date, a time. The words review of placement and status conference, and a space where people will again say the names of the children I love. I tuck it in my inside coat pocket and pat it like a woman checks her wallet in a crowd. Inside, I rinse 2 mugs that used to belong to a house with more voices. I set the blue one back on the counter, pencils in their places. I wipe the table with a cloth that smells like vinegar and pride. I look at the seedlings. 1 tomato has pushed 2 true leaves and looks suddenly like a plant and not a project. I whisper to it like an old fool. "You and me," I say. "No heroics, just roots and light." The phone buzzes against the counter. A text from my daughter. My name in a bubble that looks like everyone else's, and isn't. I'm starting counseling. Court-ordered. Don't be smug. Then a second. Tell the kids I'm trying. I don't reply. I tell the children when it is good for them, and not a leverage point for anybody else. I put the phone face down next to the mug and consider the particular. Ache a mother earns by living long enough to have the right words and the wrong audience. I do one more small thing before I sleep. Take the recipe card for apple. Pie off the clip by the pantry and write on the R, back in the space where ingredients almost never go. What stays warm is what we feed. Feed wisely. I put it back front side out, the measurements showing, because sweetness is also a skill. When I turn off the last lamp, the house breathes in and out like a patient on a good monitor. The red sweater hangs on its hook like a well-trained sentinel. The protective order under the lemon magnet stares at me with its official face, and for once it doesn't feel like a grief. It feels like scaffolding, which is to say, a temporary kindness you owe a structure you hope will stand on its own. If the storm comes back tomorrow and tries each window with the careful fingers of cold, this house will answer with the sound seasoned homes make. A soft, stubborn refusal to rattle. And if the children are here when it happens, we will stand in the doorway, between kitchen and hall, the place where first steps and last words and everything true has passed, and listen together for the quiet click that means the heat has come on again. Not much, just enough. That's how you begin to build a season you can live through. If I treat spring like a reward, I'll miss that its instructions. Loosen what winter tightened, shore what it shook, plant what you can eat. By the time the court's 30-day review lands, the snow has backed off to the places only shade believes in. The maples drip a metronome onto the porch rail. On my counter, the blue mug holds 2 pencils and 1 packet of basil seeds, because hope needs both a plan and a tool. The review is brisk. The judge is a woman who respects the physics of calendars. The guardian's report is clean. Kids adjusting, school steady, no concerning disclosures. Serena at the center notes, consistent attendance. My daughter completes her intake for counseling, starts anger management, shows up on time twice, late once, doesn't raise her voice. Michael's rental passes surprise checks. The charges downtown move the speed of court, which is to say slower than anger, faster than denial. The judge keeps the scaffolding where it is. Supervised visits continue. No contact between me and my daughter outside council. No third-party pressure. We will meet again in 60 days. Build boring routines, she says, and bangs the gavel like a sensible door closing against a draft. I take that instruction home like lumber. We start with the beds out back. 2 8-foot cedar rectangles, 2 by 8 screwed into corners. I overbuild because I trust wood more when it feels like it could survive cousins. Ethan measures with a tape he treats like a dragon's tail. He reads the numbers in sing-song. 6.5. Grandma, what's this tiny line? 1/16, I tell him. Smaller than a crumb, big enough to ruin a shelf, Sophie. Holds the level and sets her mouth like she's taken an oath on a hardware catalog we square the beds with. Diagonals and talk about how triangles. Tell a truth rectangles will sometimes lie about, Carol. Comes through the gate with soil in the back of her truck and a grin like a woman who planned to say no and found yes already. Spoken for her. We dump, rake, tamp, and I say out loud the sentences a garden deserves to hear. Roots go down because we tell them they can. Water, but not too much. Wind can be a coach. Sophie tucks in the markers we made. Tomato, basil, beans, and paints one small red sweater in the corner of the last stake, then rolls her eyes at herself and keeps it anyway. I go to my lawyer on a Thursday with a warn list. We put the house in a trust with my name now, and the kids' names later. Words like successor trustee and no forced sale to satisfy third-party debts sit on the deed like braces on a teenager. Ugly for a minute, protective for years. Carol agrees to be the grown-up if I stop being available without permission. She pretends to grumble about it and then reads every line twice. When we're done, the lawyer slides the new documents into a folder the color of wet cardboard and says, "You will feel this in your shoulders for a day. Then you won't. I do. And then I don't." The visits at the center develop a rhythm I can hum. There are good minutes that look like a family, and bad minutes that look like a scrimmage with no ball. My daughter starts saying the small necessary sentences. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm working on it." She does not say the sentence I used to want. "Mom, you were right." And I let that go because it was never the point. That sentence would only sand the corners of my pride, not fix anything that splintered. The counselor praises repair attempts like a rain gauge praises a 1/4 inch. It's not a storm. It's a start. Money remains what it is. Arithmetic, plus worry. But the rental is paid. The foreclosure notices go somewhere that isn't the address where my grandchildren sleep. And the rain fund at the credit union grows lumpy with 20s, the way a pantry grows respectable by accident. A clear Saturday that smells like thawed, dirt and somebody 2 blocks over pretending their grill is ready. We transplant the tomato starts. Sophie cups each root ball like a bird she intends to unlearn fear for. Ethan talks to the plants under his breath because, if you're 6, every living thing is a potential friend with opinions. We water from a pitcher that used to belong to a different summer. A robin glares at us with the gravity of a landlord. The kids laugh, and the sound makes a porch on the whole block. Late April pulls a trick she's famous for. At 9:17 p.m., with dishes drying and the blue mug showing off the stub of a pencil that still has one list left in it, the weather radio cracks its old voice and tells a story nobody likes. Severe thunderstorm warning. Hail. Wind. Funnel cloud possible. The siren in Riverside wakes like a dinosaur singing scales. My phone lights with the alert, and then with a name I like to see. Carol. Basement or inside hall? I'm coming to knock. I don't bother with the basement. 68-year-old knees hate stairs in a hurry. The inside hall is the house's spine. The place between kitchen and living room, where the trim remembers every first day of school, and the paint remembers every how tall now. I throw a quilt down, the red sweater within reach like a talisman that has never met a storm. It couldn't look in the eye. I text Michael. We're fine. Hallway. Call if you want me to tell the kids a story over speaker. He replies with a photo. 2 kids under a blanket tent in his rental. Flashlight drawing light across their faces like a small lighthouse. Tell the story about the basement cricket, Sophie writes. And so I do, my voice steady over the wind, the memory of a long-ago insect who set up shop under the laundry sink and sang like a broken clock until we trapped him in a mason jar and let him go, outside where his song could be someone else's problem. Hail starts the way trouble does. Curious, then it commits. The house flinches once and remembers. Itself. The storm passes in 15 minutes that behave like 45. When the siren winds down into the sound a town makes, when it has decided to keep everything it can, Carol knocks. We stand on the porch and look at the damage like women in a catalog we didn't ask for. Leaves shredded like lettuce, one downspout cocked, the neighbor's birch embarrassed. My roof lost 2 shingles, the old tarp in the garage, and 4 nails say a temporary grace. You all right? Carol asks. House says yes, I answer. Knees say don't try the ladder without a witness. She snorts. I'll be the witness and the ladder, if you're good. We fix what we can at sunrise in the smell of wet asphalt and waking birds. I write coal roofer on the list with the nub pencil, because lists are how you persuade a morning to do what you need instead of what it wants. We find a branch lodged in the gutter shaped like a question mark. I hang it on the fence for a day because I like a metaphor you can touch. 2 days later, the kids and I plant beans against a string trellis in a grid so straight, even my husband would have approved. I tell them how beans climb by feeling, and how sometimes the best thing you can do for a living thing is give it a line and let it decide what to do with height. Are people beans or tomatoes? Ethan asks. We are both, Sophie says, depending on the year. I decide she's right and make a note to tell the judge someone in this case is already practicing jurisprudence. Another letter arrives, heavier than its weight, a plea offer for my daughter. Few accounts if she admits a few truths. Class is mandatory. Probation likely. Jail not off the table, but not the default. If she walks the entire narrow path they draw with a lawyer's ruler. My lawyer reads it like weather and says, this is what accountability looks like when it's trying to be useful. I don't respond to my daughter's late-night text. Should I take it? Because that's not my line to hold. I tell my lawyer I will do what I've been doing. Show up when the state asks for a statement. Bring the mug to the table because rituals matter. And refuse to hand anybody a shortcut through my kitchen but Sunday. The sermon at church is about scaffolding without saying the word. The pastor talks about load-bearing love and how mercy is not amnesia. I shake Carol's hand at the door like we're both women who are pretending we didn't cry when the kids sang. Michael meets us on the sidewalk with Sophie and Ethan, and we all eat cake in the basement because every religion understands sugar. A woman I haven't seen in years asks after my daughter in the tone the West uses for wounds it can't dress. She's working, I say. It's true, and it's enough. At the next visit, the counselor tries a small experiment. 5 minutes where the kids play with me and my daughter at the same table, just to watch what oxygen does. It is not elegant. It is not a fire either. Ethan makes both our checkers jump at once and cackles like a scientist inventing a new, harmless chaos. My daughter laughs without calculation, and for a second, I see a girl with grass-stained knees holding up a frog she wants me to admire. The counselor notes appropriate shared affect on a clipboard, and Serena's eyebrow does not move. A victory in that room is often measured in eyebrows unsummoned. I update my will on the same day I rotate the tomato cages. Paper and wire, both meant to help a shape hold. The lawyer has me sign in 3 places I've never put ink before. This keeps anyone from ever again waving a pen at you when you're supposed to be cutting pie, she says, and it puts 2 kids in the position to inherit a house that has already decided it likes them. She asks me if I want to name the trust something poetic. Call it porch light, I say, and she actually writes it down. The kind of professional who understands that dignity can survive a joke. One evening, Michael and the kids come for dinner without a holiday's permission. It feels bigger than a hearing. Sophie helps me roll pie dough with efficient violence. Ethan stands on a chair and whispers to the cooling crust that it did a good job. We eat at the table that has heard goodbyes and olive oil and test results. It is glad to hear seconds when the plates are stacked, and the dishwasher hums like a prayer you don't have to think about. Sophie goes quiet at the doorway between kitchen and hall and puts her palm flat against the trim where we've measured summers. When I'm taller than this line, she says, tapping the last pencil mark, will I still be allowed to stand here? Yes, I say. That's how you'll know where you came from. She nods because 8 understands more than it admits. The night before the next review, the beans find the string like they promised they would. The tomatoes set first flowers, tiny yellow stars, not yet convinced of their own fruit, sit on the steps with the red sweater loose over my shoulders because old habits get cold faster than shoulders. Carol brings 2 mugs of whatever passes for tea, in a house where coffee does most of the work. And watch the street like people who have kept it. The envelope from the court sits on the rail between us, not opened, just present like weather. Season, not sentence, I say, and we both smile because we've earned the right to quote the judge like scripture. Your daughter doing the work or pretending to? Carol asks, same as she's asked every week without accusation. Some of both, I say. Pretend can turn into practice if you do it long enough with your mouth shut. She grunts, the noise that means I might have accidentally said something worth repeating at breakfast. Inside, I set the blue mug by the phone, the way sailors set a compass where it can see the sky. The protective order under the lemon magnet has a new cousin, the trust acknowledgement clipped to it with a bulldog clip that looks harsher than it is. The house makes small settling sounds as the temperature changes, the old bones remembering how to hold when the night asks. When we show up at court in the morning, the judge looks at us like a teacher who knows which children turned in their homework and which ones copied the chapter heading and hoped. The guardian says the kids are safe, curious, mischievous, at the exact rate a person their size should. B. Serena says the visits are more boring than they used to be. And she delivers the line with the smile of a professional who believes in boring the way firefighters believe in water pressure. My daughter, with her lawyer, with her jaw less tight, says she will accept the plea if the court will accept her plan. The judge tells her the plan isn't hers, then accepts the plea and sets conditions so clear you could find them with gloves on in the dark. When it's our turn to be asked if we have anything to add, I say, I don't require an apology in my kitchen anymore. The judge looks at me like I've learned a grammar she didn't assign, and she nods. We walk out into a day that has decided to be June and April. On the courthouse steps, Ethan tips his head back and drinks sunlight with his eyes. Sophie counts pigeons because somebody should. Michael squeezes my hand exactly once. It is not a rescue and not a plea. It is inventory. Everyone present. Everyone breathing. Back home, the house breathes with us. I hammer one last. Stake at the corner of the tomato bed. More for my head than for the plants. I set the pie on the sill to cool because some cliches have earned tenure. I write a new sentence on the back of the recipe card under the one I wrote in winter. What stays strong is what we brace. Brace wisely. After dinner, the kids and I stand again in the doorway between kitchen and hall. We speak the addresses that matter, the numbers you need when the night forgets your name. We practice the code phrase we retired. I left the red sweater in the freezer. And giggle because it has become what we wanted it to be. Ridiculous. We invent a new one for fun that we will never need. because it belongs to a season we have already lived through. Then we put the pencils back in the mug, and the mug back on its spot, and ourselves back in the work of being ordinary. Toward dark, a breeze lifts the curtains, and the whole house shivers the way a dog does after a bath. Less burdened, the tomato flowers close their small hands. The bean tips grope for the next knot and find it without help. I pour 2 inches of water into a glass and set it by the sink for the nighttime pills, just as I have done since my doctor told me I should. I turn the thermostat down 1 degree because good houses respect the bill. I lock the door and put my palm flat against it, as if saying, "Grace." Somewhere across town, a woman I made is writing her name under terms she didn't get to choose. Somewhere closer, 2 small people are asleep in a rental that smells like soap and gratitude and radiator heat. In my pocket sits a key-folded paper thin by a lawyer's printer. New ink where there used to be risk. On my counter sits a blue mug that says a name I keep, earning. If the storm comes back, as storms do, the house will do what I built it to do and what it learned to do long before me. Stand, flex, hold. And if it doesn't, if something older than lumber ever asks me to move, I have a list of people to call, a plan that keeps the children's hands on warm cups, and a neighbor who knocks the way help should. As long as I'm breathing, this place is not for sale. Not the walls, not the rules, not the quiet we've taught these rooms to keep. The season is changing, the bones remember, and out back under a sky that forgives, 2 bean vines find the string and go where they're meant to go, without asking anybody's permission.